You start to psych yourself out because of the cinematic value of Hard Knocks. I think they can win 9 games. I think they can win 10 games. This guy over here. But with the exception of drafting Aiden Hutchinson, what moves did they make?
Crickets.
That defense is the exact same. They should have won this game. They should have won this game. No, they should have not. You got to start going to people's houses and kick their ass. Bleeding, 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 bleeding.
That's all, folks.
Before the break, if the Lions lose to Washington as part of our fill-in-the-blank Friday, you will, or excuse me, if the Lions lose to Washington, I will. You said you would.
I would be understanding.
Be understanding. Me, I said I'd be totally pissed. Some of the ones in the YouTube chat, if the Lions lose, I will finish the bottle of Gypsy by myself at the corn maze. That is Mike G. If the Lions lose, I'm trying to get to some of these because there's a bunch thrown in here.
Let me start here.
Sure. I will not be surprised.
And to be honest, that's a good one. And the reason why I think that's a perfect one, and maybe let me say not understanding, because I think when I say I'm understanding, people are like, oh, you understand? You feel bad for him? No, I don't feel bad for him at all. I meant I would not be surprised. Let me approach it from...
I would panic some of these.
Let me approach it from this standpoint, okay? Last year, the Detroit Lions, what was their record, Ryan Ermanni?
3, I'm going to play along with you.
Just please play along.
Yes, I'm going to play along with you.
Play
for
along.
The exercise of it only.
Don't do it begrudgingly either.
3-13-1.
What move on defense did they make in the offseason to get away from that defense that was so terrible? With the exception of drafting Aiden Hutchinson, what moves did they make?
Crickets.
They
signed Tracy Walker,
who was already on the team.
Yep.
That defense is the exact same. What did Dan Campbell tell you before the season started last year? He said, before you guys get excited, he said, this is going to take 3 years. He said, this is going to be a 3-year process. He did not BS you. This is one reason why you love Dan Campbell. He doesn't BS you. He shoots you straight from the hip. They won 3 games last year, and they tied 1, and they lost 13. If this team wins 7 games, that is a 4-game improvement. For almost 5 because it's no tie. That's almost a 4.5-game improvement from where you guys were last year. That's a huge improvement with the same defense, with the exception of 2 players. It's the same. That is an improvement. So when what happened was everybody bought into that, and then after 3-13-1, you bought into, well, you know what? I see the identity. I see it changing. I see it going in the right direction. If they finish 7-10, that is moving in the right direction. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. But when you get Hard Knocks, you start to psych yourself out because of the cinematic value of Hard Knocks and tell yourself, oh, you know what? I think they can win 8 games. I think they can win 9 games. I think they can win 10 games. This guy over here. And now when you get into the season, you're no longer a realistic fan. You're a fan that buys into, they should have won this game. They should have won this game. No, they should have not. This is what they were going to do. It still is improvement. It just ain't the improvement that you necessarily want to see.
Everything that you just said, if there was like a ding, ding, ding or some sort of bell, I would ring it.
Yeah.
Because I think you hit the nail on the head. You did. And I am one of those guys,
Yeah.
I could say 10 games all I want. Look, if they win 7 games, there's going to be something to an improvement there that we're all going to feel good about. But if they are going to win 7 games, this is one of those games that I think is a 50-50 game. I'd like to see them win a couple of 50-50 games here. They're at home playing a Washington team that is good, but they are not a playoff team either. I don't think Washington, the Commanders, are going to show up in the postseason this year.
No.
So if you were going to play, if you ask me right now if they're going to win 7 games, I would be happy if they beat teams at home that are not going to make the playoffs. Now, Washington
may sneak in.
But I'm just saying. But
I agree with you. I understand
right now, today, as it sits, and you look at the landscape of the NFC, I'll say that Washington is on the outside looking in.
I would agree.
If the Lions are going to win 7 games, one of the things, 7 or more games, one of the things that they have got to do is they have to win home games against non-playoff teams. Therefore, that is why I believe they have to beat the Washington Commanders, because I do want to see improvement. I do want to see wins, at least double their win total from a year ago. If they're going to get to 6, if they're going to get to 7, again, Braylon, they have to beat teams at home that are not going to make the playoffs. I don't believe Washington's a playoff team.
And there's nothing wrong with that. When you watched Washington last week, who did they play against? They played against the Jacksonville Jaguars. When we asked the question after the season was over, for that February period through maybe March or June, or right after the draft kind of had gotten going, we asked the question, which franchise would you rather be? Would you rather be the Jacksonville Jaguars or would you rather be Detroit Lions? Everybody answered which franchise? Well, the Detroit Lions. Well, you watched the Jacksonville Jaguars play last week. The Jacksonville Jaguars should have beat the Washington Commanders. They should have won that game, but they didn't. Can't talk about what could have happened, what should have happened, but they had a real opportunity to win that game. And you told me the Lions are better than the Jaguars. So if they had that opportunity, if they had a chance to win, what the hell should the Detroit Lions have at home? I agree with you 100%. They definitely have more than a puncher's chance against the freaking Washington Commanders.
You know, and again, not to look at the schedule, but if we are to, but not to look at the schedule, but to look at the schedule. You know, there are these games, right? Washington at home, not a playoff team. Seattle at home, not a playoff team. Miami and Green Bay, I believe both those teams are playoff teams. Green Bay notwithstanding my take on that. Buffalo, a playoff team. So that's 3 home games where you're going to face 3 playoff opponents, essentially. Then Jacksonville at home. That's the 3rd win.
Right. And the Bears later on.
The Bears at home. So if you're going to get 7 wins, you play 4 games at home against non-playoff teams.
And then this is where the second side of your comment comes in. This is when the second side of your prediction comes in, where maybe you even get to 8. This is where you get to 8. Not only do you have to beat teams at home, bleeding. That's all, folks. Not only do you have to beat teams at home that you should because they're not going to the playoffs, Ryan, you got to beat those teams on the road that aren't that good.
Right.
You got to start going to people's houses and kick their ass. My coach used to say this in Little League. He said, you think we're going to let somebody come in our house, kick in the door, take the TV, and walk out?
Right.
That's how teams feel, but they can't necessarily protect that front door. I'm looking at the Panthers. I damn sure know we can go down to Carolina and get a win. I damn sure know we can go to MetLife Stadium and beat the New York Jets and get a win. Some of those games, they're going to have to win on the road to show me that you're taking the next step. Because if you can't win on the road, then all that stuff you told me on Hard Knocks about grit is BS.
If we just look exclusively at the Lions' schedule, and you say they've got to win 6 games, humor me here.
Yeah.
The only way I will consider this season a success for the Detroit Lions is if they win 6 or more games.
Yeah.
To get to that 6 or more games, they've got 4 games against who we deem non-playoff teams. One of those teams is Washington this week. If you lose to Washington at home, there's 3 games: Seattle, Chicago, and Jacksonville. The only 3 remaining teams you will play at home who we expect will not make the playoffs. So then you got to go find 3 more wins on the road.
Right.
Can they do that? We'll see. But that is why I feel like this Washington game is a must-win if you want progress and if you want to keep the crowd involved early. But that's neither here nor there. This is one of those 50-50 games I got to see them win.
This game against Washington is a toss-up for me, and it's a toss-up because I just believe in the offensive talent that is the Washington Commanders, man. I believe in Carson Wentz during the regular season. Keep in mind, I said during the regular seasons, he's only had 1 bad season. That was 2020. I believe in him in the regular season. Anthony Gibson, I like Anthony Gibson out of the backfield. He's a good back. Got to get him the ball more. I believe in his wide receiver core, so I believe in him. It's a 50-50 game, but I don't think it's one of those 6 that I'm pointing to like this game has to happen. The 6 games that I'm pointing to that have to happen for the Detroit Lions, these are the 6. It is the following week. It's against the Seahawks at home. That's 1. It's the Patriots in Gillette. That's 2. It's the Chicago Bears at Chicago. That's 3. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. That's 4. It's the New York Jets at MetLife. That's 5. It's the Panthers in Carolina. That's 6. And it is the Bears at home. Those are the 7 games that I'm like, they got to win those games. And if you want to say they can split with the Bears, fine by me. They got to win 6 of those 7 games, Ryan Ermanni.